Hi guys, it's an absolute shame that you're not with us in lessons at the moment, but it's super important that you are keeping up to date with what we are doing in class so you are up to speed when you return to school next week. So, today we are reading Act 3, Scene 1, Scene 2 and Scene 3. After we've annotated each scene together, you are going to complete an independent task on the Word document to ensure that you understand each scene. Okay, to get us started, please can you make sure that you have your Macbeth play in front of you, open to page 60, that you have a black or blue pen and a highlighter. And I'll give you a few seconds to do that now. Please pause the video if you need to run and grab any of those things. Okay, so we should now have Macbeth open to page 60 and our highlighter and pen ready for our annotations. I am going to annotate as I move through the slideshow, and as I do so, please make sure you are copying exactly what I am doing into your own copies of the text. Okay, before we start, I just want to give you a quick summary of Act 3, Scene 1. So, in this scene, Banquo suspects Macbeth, but gains comfort from the second part of the witch's prophecies that his own children will be kings, and that's what we looked at in the Do Now. Having announced his intention to go riding with Fleance, Banquo is persuaded to return later that evening to their new palace for a special feast, so the Macbeth's new palace. However, Macbeth realises that the witch's prophecy regarding Banquo represents a threat to his own position as king. Unable to endure the thought of Banquo's descendants claiming his position, Macbeth summons two hired murderers and confirms with them prior arrangements for the killing of Banquo and his son, Fleance. Okay, let's get started with our annotations. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Banquo. Thou hast it now, King, Cawdor, Glamis, all as the weird woman promised, and I fear thou platest most foully for it. So, Banquo is saying here that Macbeth has it all. He is king, he is Thane of Cawdor and Thane of Glamis, but he is scared that Macbeth has gone about everything in the wrong way, that he is cheated to win these titles. He continues by saying, "Yet it was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings." He's saying, but I was also prophesied that the crown would not go to your descendants and that my son and grandsons would be kings instead. If there come truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why, by the verities on thee made good, may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope? But hush, no more. Banquo is saying, if the witches have told the truth, which they did about Macbeth, maybe what they said about me will come true too. But at the end, he says, but shh, I'll shut up now. I don't want to continue thinking about this. And he stops that train of thought. Okay, let's annotate this in a bit more detail. So can we please highlight the line, I fear thou platest most foully for it. As I said, Banquo is suspicious that Macbeth has committed regicide. Let's annotate that. Also, please bear with me with the video because you know my handwriting is rubbish anyway, so hopefully it's clear for you on the video. Okay, let's also just circle the F in fear, the F in foully, and the F in for. Think about what method that is. Hopefully you realise that that is alliteration and it is fricative due to the F sounds. And this shows Banquo's concern. At any point after annotations, please pause them I know you all write at different speeds, so please pause the video if you need a little bit more time to copy something down. Okay, let's highlight the line, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. And like I said, this is problematic for Macbeth, as Banquo's children were prophesied to be kings. So this is problematic for Macbeth. Please highlight the line, why by the verities on thee made good. Banquo is aware that the prophecies in Macbeth's case have become truth. Prophecies have become truths. And lastly, highlight please, but hush no more. Just briefly think about how Banquo reacts to his own ambitions in comparison to Macbeth. You should be thinking about the difference here. He is ambitious, like Macbeth. Oh, I knew there would be an error somewhere through here. I knew it wouldn't go super smooth. He is ambitious like Macbeth, but doesn't act. He says, hush no more. He instantly realizes that he's not going to act upon his ambitions. Okay, and then a trumpet sounds, the Senate sounds, enters Macbeth as king, Lady Macbeth as queen, Lennox, Ross, lords and ladies and attendants. Macbeth says, here is our chief guest, and that relates to Banquo. Okay. Like I say, pause if you need a moment, but if not, let's carry on. If he had been forgotten, it had been as a gap in our great feast, and all things unbecoming. Lady Macbeth says here, if we forgot him, Banquo, our big celebrations wouldn't be complete, and that wouldn't be any good. Tonight we hold a solemn supper, sir, and I'll request your presence. Macbeth says to Banquo, tonight we're having a ceremonial banquet, and I want you to be there. Let your highness command upon me, to the which my duties are with a most indissoluble tie forever knit. Banquo says, whatever your highness commands me to do, it is always my duty to do it. So let's highlight, please, to the which my duties are with a most indissoluble tie forever knit. And this indicates Banquo's loyalty to his new king and his new queen. Macbeth says, ride you this afternoon? Are you going riding this afternoon? Banquo, aye, my good lord. Macbeth says, we should have else desired your good advice, which still hath been both grave and prosperous in this day's council, but will take tomorrow. Is it far you ride? Macbeth says, we would have liked to have heard your good advice, which has always been serious and helpful at the council today, but will take tomorrow. Are you riding far? Let's continue. Banquo says, as far, my lord, as will fill up the time twixt this and supper. Go not my horse the better, I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain. Banquo says, I'm going far enough that I'll be riding from now until dinner, until my horse goes faster than expected. I'll be back an hour or 2 after sunset. Now let's highlight this, please. I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain. Where Banquo says he will return after sunset. And this is significant, and we're going to find out why that's significant as we read on. But obviously we are aware from the summary that Macbeth is going to murder Banquo, or his murderers are going to murder Banquo and Fleance, and he's returning after sunset, and that's significant because it's going to conceal or work to conceal these crimes. Okay, once again, darkness conceals the evil deeds. Significant due to Macbeth's later plot of murder. Pause if you need a second. Macbeth says, "Fail not our feast, so do not miss our feast." Banquo, "My lord, I will not." Let's highlight "my lord." Once again, Banquo's respect. Ooh, not sure what's happening there. Respect is evident. It's clear that he respects Macbeth as he refers to him as his lord. Macbeth says, "We hear our bloody cousins are bestowed in England and in Ireland, not confessing their cruel parricide, filling their hearers with strange invention. But of that tomorrow, when therewithal we shall have cause of state, craving us jointly." He says, "We hear that the princes, those murderers, have hidden in England and Ireland. They haven't confessed to cruelly murdering their own father, but they've been making up strange lies to tell their hosts." It's interesting here because wondering what those lies are. Macbeth says, "But we can talk more about that tomorrow when we discuss matters of state that concern us both." He ends by saying, "Hie you to horse, adieu, till you return at night goes Fleance with you. Hurry up and get to your horse, goodbye, until you return tonight is Fleance going with you." So let's highlight here our bloody cousins in England and in Ireland not confessing their cruel parricide. This links to the theme of appearance versus reality. Macbeth appears to be innocent by criticising Duncan's sons. But we know that's not the case. Just pause here for a second if you need to. Banquo says, "I, my good lord, our time does call upon us." So yes, my good lord, it's time we hit the road. And again, I just want to make a note of the fact that he said "my lord" 3 times. Okay, so make sure you highlight those. Right, the repetition shows his unwavering, his unchanging devotion. Even though he knows that his son could potentially be king, he is still loyal, and that's the difference between Banquo and Macbeth. So pause here if you need a second before we move on. Macbeth says, "I wish your horses swift and sure of foot, and so I do commend you to their backs. Farewell. Have a good ride. Enjoy your ride." Exit Banquo. Let every man be master of his time till 7 at night, to make society the sweeter welcome. We will keep ourselves till supper time alone, while then good be with you. He says, everybody do as you please until 7 o'clock tonight, and he's going to keep himself to himself until supper time, and then until then, God be with you. An extra in all but Macbeth and one single attendant. Macbeth says, Sirrah, a word with you. Attend those men our pleasure. He says, those men there, are they waiting for me? The servant says, they are, my lord, without the palace gates. They're waiting outside the palace gate. Macbeth commands, bring them before us. Exit attendant. Macbeth continues by saying, to be thus is nothing but to be safely thus. Now, let's highlight that line. I'm just trying to see if I want to go on to the next page. Yeah, is there anything I need? Nope. Okay, let's highlight that line. To be thus is nothing but to be safely thus. He says here, to be the king is nothing if I'm not safe as the king. Our fears in Banquo. This is when Macbeth realises that he is concerned about the second of the witches' prophecies about Banquo's sons being kings. So let's annotate this. To be king is nothing if I am not safe as king. And this is an example of chiasmus, just like the witches. And this chiasmus shows the inversion of his goals. His goals have been inverted. Pause here if you need a second before we move on. Okay, and we're continuing now into Macbeth's soliloquy. And it's important to notice here the difference between this soliloquy in Act 3, Scene 1 to his soliloquies in 1.2 and 2.1, where he is very doubtful, because there's a huge lack of doubt in this soliloquy, and we're going to analyse that in a little bit more detail. But before we do that, please write, just at any point on your page, at the top or the bottom would be ideal. And this, why is the pen not working? This contrasts with soliloquies in 1.1, and 2.1, where Macbeth is doubtful. Just jot that down. There's a space at the bottom of your page in your play here on 61, so maybe jot it down there. I'll give you a second to do that, and then we'll rub that out and start annotating the soliloquy in detail. Okay, so pause if you need to. I'm going to rub it out. Right, now let's carry on reading. Stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. 'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valour to act in safety. He says there's something noble about him. There's royalty of nature. There's something noble about him that makes me fear him. He's willing to take risk. 'Tis much he dares. and his mind never stops working. He has the wisdom to act bravely, but also safely. And he says, there is none but he whose being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked. He's saying I'm not afraid of anyone but Banquo, and around him my guardian angel is frightened. He refers to a guardian angel as being frightened. Now let's make some annotations here. Let's highlight royalty of nature, dauntless temper, wisdom that doth guide his valour. Here Macbeth fears what makes Banquo good. Take a second to write that down, pause if you need. And maybe underline this line, because it's for a separate annotation. He has a wisdom that doth guide his valour to act in safety. He's saying that he has the wisdom to act bravely, but also safely. And that's something that Macbeth lacks. Oh, I do not know what happened there. Macbeth lacks. He did not have the wisdom to act safely and bravely when committing the act of regicide. And like I said, my genius is rebuked. Like I said, his guardian angel is frightened. His spirit is afraid of Banquo. I just realised how bad my handwriting is, and I apologise that you have to look at this because it's awful. I hope it's clear. Again, pause if you need. I'm going to just rub something out. Okay, so I'm just going to rub these out just so I have a little bit more room to play with. This is a bit tedious. Right, okay, let's carry on. As it is said, Mark Antony's was by Caesar. He chid the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me and bade them speak to him. Then prophet-like they held him father to a line of kings. Okay, there's a lot to unpick here, so let's take it slow. Let's highlight Mark Antony's was by Caesar. Now this is another allusion from Macbeth. From Shakespeare, sorry. It's alluding to something else outside of the text. Now Macbeth represents himself as Mark Antony and Banquo as Caesar. So Caesar is Banquo and Mark Antony is Macbeth. Now, this allusion is important because Caesar defeated Antony in the civil wars, and Antony was warned that Caesar would ruin him by a soothsayer, which is a supernatural foretelling, and that parallels that of the witches. So let's write that down. Caesar defeated Antony. Again, pause at any moment, rewind. So I know we all work at different speeds. And Antony was warned that Caesar would ruin him by a supernatural foretelling. That's exactly what's happening here. Macbeth is aware that Banquo has the capability of ruining him due to the witch's prophecies. Pause here for a second before we move on. So he tried the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me and bade them speak to him. He says Banquo chided the witches when they first called me king, asking them to tell him his own future. Then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown and put a barren sceptre in my gripe, thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. Macbeth says, they gave me a crown that I cannot pass on. And someone outside of his family will take these things away from me, since no son of mine will take his place as king. Now let's highlight, please. You're going to need to turn over here. So highlight fruitless. Highlight barren. Highlight unlineal. These are all words in the semantic field. We looked at semantic field last year. Of childlessness. Macbeth is aware the crown is fruitless. It does not bear any line of kings for him. He says, if it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. From them the gracious Duncan have I murdered. Put rankers in the vessel of my peace only for them, and mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man, to make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. He says, if this is true, then I've tortured my conscience and murdered the gracious Duncan for Banquo's sons, and I ruined my own peace for their benefit. I have passed my soul onto the devil so that they could be kings. Banquo's sons could be kings. There's a lot to unpick here. So let's just highlight the word filed. I'm going to rub some of this out just so I have a little bit more room. Make sure you've obviously paused if you need to at any moment. There's no rush to get through this. Okay, that'll do. This just means polluted. Okay, he's talking about the pollution of his mind, the dirtying of his mind. Also, let's highlight the word murdered. Earlier on, Macbeth refers to the murder as bloody business, which we talked about, showing his lack of acceptance or accountability. And it's clear that Macbeth has accepted his crime here. It's Macbeth's acceptance. For Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. He cannot think of anything but Banquo's sons being kings, and he feels that the murder is pointless. So let's do a little note for this whole paragraph. He feels murder was pointless and his mind is now poisoned, polluted. For that, rankers in the vessel of my peace. Now let's highlight mine internal jewel and given to the common enemy of man. Macbeth is saying here that his soul has been given to the devil only for Banquo's benefit. Mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man to make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. Soul given to devil for Banquo's benefit. And the reference to his soul and the devil links to the disruption of all that is natural and all that is good. And now that Macbeth's castle is likened to hell, Hell's Gate. And then he finishes by saying, rather than so, come fate into the list and champion me to the utterance, who's there? He says, I will challenge fate to battle and fight to death, who's there? So let's highlight that, please. Come fate into the list and champion me to the utterance. Here, fate is referencing the witch's prophecies that Banquo's children are going to be kings. He wishes to challenge these prophecies. And obviously we know from the summary that this challenge is in the form of him hiring murderers to kill Banquo and his son. So he wishes to challenge prophecies. This foreshadows murder of Banquo. Pause for a second if you need to catch up before we move on to the next page. Or the next slide for me. Okay, we're about halfway through. Stay with me because it starts to slow down after this point. So the attendant enters now with 2 murderers, and Macbeth says, now go to the door and stay there till we call. He says, leave. Obviously he's going to speak to the murderer, so he doesn't want an attendant there. And the servant exits, exit attendant. Was it not yesterday we spoke together? First murderer, it was, so please your highness. Macbeth says, well then now have you considered of my speeches? What do you think about what I said? You should know that it was Banquo who made your lives hell, is what he's saying here. Know that it was he in the times past which held you so under fortune, which you thought had been our innocent self, which you always thought was my fault, but I was innocent. This I made good to you in our last conference, passed in probation with you, how you were borne in hand, how crossed the instruments, who wrought with them, and all things else that might, to half a soul and to a notion crave, say thus did Banquo. He says, I showed you the proof at our last meeting. I explained how you were deceived, how you were thwarted, the things that were used against you, who was working against you, and a lot of other things that would convince even a half-wit or a crazy person, half a soul to a notion craze, that Banquo did it. Convincing them that Banquo is the enemy. So thus did Banquo, convincing that Banquo is the enemy. Macbeth here is being very deceptive, much like Lady Macbeth. Highlight here as well our innocent self. It says that I am innocent, but that's ironic. No, that's not the case. Pause here if you need to, because we're about to move on. Right. You made it known to us. It says you explained it all. I get it, don't worry, you explained it all. I did so and went further, which is now our point of second meeting. He said, I did that and more, which brings me to the point of this meeting now. Do you find your patience so predominant in your nature that you can let this go? It says, are you so patient and forgiving that you're going to let him off the hook? Are you so gospel to pray for this good man for his issue, whose heavy hand hath bowed you to the grave and beggared yours forever? He says, or would you pray for this man and his children, a man who has pushed you toward an early grave and put your family in poverty forever? Let's highlight, let's circle the questions here. Just like Lady Macbeth, he questions the murderers to spur them to action. Questions their manhood to spur them to act. If Banquo has betrayed you, you should want to get revenge. That's why here, highlight we are men, my liege, they are justified to explain that they are men and they will act. And Macbeth continues by saying, I in catalogue you go for men. Yes, you're part of the species of man. As hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, curs, chauffeurs, water rugs and demi-wolves I collect all by the names of dogs. He says, just as hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, mutts, shaggy lapdogs, swimming dogs and wolf dogs are all dogs. The valued file distinguishes the swift, the slow, the subtle, the housekeeper, the hunter, every one according to the gift which bounteous nature hath in him closed. He says, but if you list a different kind of dogs according to their qualities, you can distinguish which breeds are fast or slow, which ones are clever, which ones are watchdogs, and which ones are hunters. You can classify each dog according to their natural gifts that separate it from all other dogs, and that writes them alike, and so of men. And he says that's the same for men. So here, let's highlight. Actually, we'll just do one of these again. He compares men to dogs to question their masculine qualities. He said that there are different types of men. There are brave men, there are weak men, there are strong men. Okay, and he's probing them to decide which man they're going to be. What man are you going to be? Okay, let's move on. He says, now if you have a station in the file, now at the worst rank of manhood, say it, and I will put that business in your bosoms, whose execution takes your enemy off. He says, now if you occupy some place in this list of men that isn't down at the very bottom, then let me know, tell me. Because if that's the case, I will tell you a plan that will get rid of your enemy and bring you closer to me. Grapples you to the heart and love of us, who wear our health but sickly in his life, which in his death were perfect. He says, as long as Banquo lives, I am sick. I'll be healthy when he is dead. Okay, let's highlight this. Ooh. What's going on? Why is my highlight not working? Why is it not working? This is infuriating. There you go. This is very manipulative here. Beth is saying, if Banquo lives, I'm sick, and I'll be healthy when he is dead. It's manipulative, as he knows that these men are going to want to prove their manhood and also prove their loyalty. As he knows, as he is aware that they will want to prove their loyalty. And manhood will add. Just highlight this line as well. Grapples you to the heart and love of us. Just going to add that convinces them by claiming they become closer. Hey, he's acting much like Lady Macbeth in the scene, and we are going to do a detailed comparison of both the characters at a later stage, but it's evident here that he's manipulating them and corrupting them in the same way that Lady Macbeth corrupted and manipulated him, and we're going to look at that a little bit later in scene 3, and your task on scene 3 links to this kind of growing treachery of Macbeth. Okay, and the second murderer says, I am one, my liege, whom the vile blows and buffets of the world have so incensed that I am reckless what I do spite the world. He says, my lord, I've been so kicked around by the world and I'm so angry that I don't even care what I do. Okay. The first murderer says, and I another, so weary with disasters, tugged with fortune that I would set my life on any chance to mend it or be rid on it. He said, I'm so sick of bad luck and trouble that I'd risk my life on any bet as long as it would either fix my life or end it once and for all. Okay, and it's important here, so let's highlight I am reckless. I would set my lie on any chance. Murderers are irrational, and that's beneficial for Macbeth because they will not think too much. They will not question too much. Rationality benefits Macbeth as they will not have doubts or questions. That's not an arrow. Okay, pause here if you need to. Let's move on. Macbeth says, both of you know Banquo was your enemy. You both know that Banquo is your enemy. Both murderers say, true, my lord. Macbeth says, so is he mine, and in such bloody distance that every minute of his being thrust against my nearest of life. He's my enemy too, and I hate him so much that every minute he's alive, it eats away at my heart. So let's highlight that every minute of his being thrust against my nearest of my life. Again, there's a kind of emotional manipulation. No, I could with barefaced power sweep him from my sight and bid my will avouch it, yet I must not, for certain friends that are both his and mine, whose loves I may not drop. He says, I can simply use my power to get rid of him, but I can't do that because he and I have friends in common whom I need. Bewail his fall who I myself struck down, and thence it is that I to your assistance do make love, masking the business from the common eye for sundry weighty reasons. He says, so I have to be able to moan and cry over his death in public, even though I'll be the one who had him killed. That's why I need your help right now. I have to hide my real plans from the public eye. Masking the business from the common eye. Again, the theme of appearance versus reality. This is significant because it's clear that Macbeth is aware that he's going to have to hide before Lady Macbeth was telling him to hide. Macbeth is more self. Why does it do that? It's so annoying. Self-aware since Lady Macbeth's corruption. He now knows the importance of appearing like one thing and being the other, looking like the innocent flower but being the serpent under it. Pause here if you need to. We're going to move on. Okay, second murderer says, "We shall, my lord, perform what you command us, though our lives." He said, "We'll do what you want us to, my lord, though our lives." And then there's a pause there. They are interrupted. So highlight, please, though our lives. Oh. There's a hint there that there's maybe there is some doubt. Okay, maybe they're questioning about though our lives, what's going to happen to us? Maybe there is doubt, or do they not care about their lives? Or is there a lack of care for the consequences? You know, they're going to murder bankwomen and freelance. The potential that they might die also. So is there doubt here about that, or do they not care about their lives? Because they have said before, we've been through so much misery and torture in our lives that we'll do whatever you say. We don't care about the consequences. Okay, Macbeth says, "Your spirits shine through you." He says here, "Your souls shine with the virtue of loyalty. You're loyal to me, you're doing what I command for you. You are not asking questions, you are not showing any signs of doubt or wavering." He continues, "Within this hour at most I will advise you where to plant yourselves, acquaint you with the perfect spy, the time, the moment on it, for it must be done tonight in something from this palace." He says, "Within the next hour I'll tell you where to go and exactly when to strike. It must be done tonight away from the palace." He says, "Always thought that I require a clearness. Always remember that I must be free from suspicion. And with him to leave no rubs nor botches in the work, Fleance his son, that keeps him company, whose absence is no less material to me than it is his father's, must embrace the fate of that dark hour." So for the plan to work perfectly, you must kill both Banquo and his son Fleance. Because getting rid of Fleance is as important to me as knocking off Macbeth, as a killing off Macbeth. And he says, "Resolve yourselves apart, I'll come to you anon." He says, each of you should make up your own mind about what you're going to do and how you're going to do this, and I'll come to you soon. Both murderers say, "We are resolved, my lord," and they say, "We have decided." Okay, there's no doubt, they are resolute. Just going to highlight here, "Always thought that Ira acquired a clearness, and with him to leave no rubs, nor botches in this work." Okay, saying it has to be done perfectly, which shows Macbeth's concern and urgency. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this so I've got a bit more room. Remember, just a reminder to pause at any point if you need to. I'm going to highlight, "I will advise you where to plant yourself." Macbeth now takes on the role of Lady Macbeth. He decides on the plot to kill Banquo. Macbeth takes on the role of Lady Macbeth as he decides the plan. Okay, pause here if you need to. I'm just going to go on to the last slide. Macbeth says, I'll call upon you straight, abide within. I'll call for you soon, stay inside the castle. The murderers leave, extra murderers. Macbeth says, it is concluded. Banquo, thy soul's flight, if it find heaven, must find it out tonight. And then he exits. Since the deal is closed, Banquo, your soul is going to make it to heaven. Tonight is the night. I like that, please. Obviously, again, it's a rhyming couplet, mirroring the witches. This recalls the line prior to him killing Duncan, which implies that his mind is set, resolute. Okay, just finish that off. Pause if you need to, because I'm about to explain what's going to happen next. Okay, so you should have that completely annotated. Make sure you don't put away your Macbeth book or your highlighter or your pen, because we're going to do scene 2 and scene 3 in a minute, and they are much, much shorter. So well done. So now, please go back to the Word document on Show My Homework and complete the task for Act 3, Scene 1.